Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Islamic or Sharia Law, session number 7. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah, amma ba'd. A'uz billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Corporal punishment. The Holy Quraan has prescribed corporal punishments for crimes. Imprisonment as punishment is nowhere mentioned in the Quran. For general immodest behavior on the part of women, which leads towards adultery, the punishment prescribed is confinement to houses. As said in Ayah 4-15, if any of your women are guilty of an immodesty, which can result in leading towards adultery, take the evidence of 4 reliable witnesses from amongst you against them. And if they testify, confine them to houses until death. Do claim them, or the law of Allah creates a situation which takes them away from such shameful acts, such as she gets married. Punishment for fornication is mentioned in Ayah 24-2 and punishment for making a false accusation in Ayah 24-4. Internment can also be imposed as a punishment in crimes relating to disorder and rebellion, as has been previously explained in Ayah 5-33 and 34. In Surah Ahzab, 33rd chapter of Quran, a verse points towards punishment also. It starts with address to Nabi in Ayah 33-59. O Nabi, tell your wives and daughters and believing women that they should cast a loose outer garment over their persons when going out, as said in Ayah 24-31. It is necessary for their recognition as honorable women, so that no vulgar people may molest them. According to the divine law, this shall serve as a means of their protection as well as training, as said in Ayah 33-60 and 61. So, you be careful to this extent, but if after this the hypocrites whose hearts are diseased with wickedness and those who stir up sedition in the city desist not, then force shall have to be used against them. Thus, after a while, they shall not be able to stay amongst you. They shall be deprived of all the privileges they received on account of their being the citizens of an Islamic state. In case they shall persist in their rebellion, they shall be prosecuted and put to death. In the above passage, the words points to the possibility of their banishment. Testimony, that is evidence. 1. In evidence to be just, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, 5th chapter of the Quran, it is said in Ayah 5-8, O you who believe, stand out firmly as witness to maintain and perpetuate justice, and do not do it for the personal gain, but merely for the sake of Allah. The singularity of believers have been described as in Ayah 70-33. Those who stand firm in their testimonies always, number 2, always come forward with just narration, even if it goes against you or your parents or your relatives. In your testimony, do not differentiate between the rich and the poor, nor should your sentiments be allowed to prevail upon you. Never speak in a crooked way. Do not evade standing as a witness. Stand not as a witness for the plaintiff or for the respondent, but do so for Allah alone. As said in Ayah 4-135, in order to establish a system in which you can receive the pleasant things of the present as well as for the future. The basic condition is that you should become the custodians of the justice in this world, as said in Ayah 5-8. And for justice, the basic element is truthful evidence. Therefore, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses for Allah, even as against yourself, or against your parents, or your kins, and whether it be against rich or poor. Do not become their well wishers at the cost of leaving the course of truth, for Allah can best look after them. Follow not the behest of your passions, lest you swerve, nor say anything deceitful or refuse to present your testimony. Verily, Allah is well acquainted with what you do, even with your passions and inclinations. 3. Do not conceal testimony, as said in Ayah 2-283, and do not intermix truth with falsehood in your evidence, as said in Ayah 2-42, nor present untrue or false testimony. The singularity of the believers has thus been stated, as said in Ayah 25-71, they never present false or untrue testimony. 4. You should present your testimony only on the matters that you personally know. Allah ordains in Ayah 17-36, and pursue not that of which you have no personal knowledge, for every act of hearing or of seeing or feeling in your mind will be questioned into. It means that you reach conclusions through personal inquiry by the use of your sense and mind. If any link of this chain is broken, your inquiry shall remain defective. This is a great responsibility that Allah has laid upon you. Allah has endowed you with discretion and choice so that you can choose between right and wrong. You are not a helpless machine, and with this, He has provided you with means to investigate and not to use such means to avoid your responsibility. 5. Witnesses should not refuse to attend when called for, as said in Ayah 2-282. On the other hand, stress has been enjoined upon, as said in Ayah 2-282, let neither scribe nor witness be harmed. 6. If the testimony of certain witness is doubtful, the court can call other witnesses, as said in Ayah 5-107 and 108. If it is found that the witnesses are guilty of perjury, let two other from the party against which the wrong evidence has been presented stand forth in their places and swear by Allah that their testimony is truer than those who appear earlier, and they will not exceed beyond the truth. And if they do so, they shall become guilty. In the divine law, testimony over and above the first testimony is allowed because therein lies the possibility of witnesses giving the true evidence for fear of contradiction, in which case they shall be considered as criminals, and this shall bring them a bad name in society. Now it is necessary for you, therefore, to remain cautious in the divine law and listen carefully, that if you leave the right path and take up the wrong instead, it would never lead you to your destination. 7. Witnesses ought to be from amongst your own people, except where it is not possible to do so, as said in Ayah 5-106. O you who believe, when death approaches any of you, take witnesses amongst yourself while making a will, because making a will has been made incumbent upon you, as said in Ayah 2-180. Take two just men as witnesses of your own brotherhood or others from outside, if you are journeying through the land and where your own people are not available and the probability of death befalls you. Then, at the time when their testimony is needed, if you doubt their truth, let your judges detain them both after prayers in the mosque, and let them both swear by Allah, we wish not in this for any worldly gain. even though our beneficiary be our near relatives, and that we shall hide not the true evidence. If we do that, then the sin will be upon us, that is, we shall be considered as offenders. 8. In transacting financial matters, take two male witnesses, and if two male witnesses are not available, take one male and one female, and two females. The Holy Quran has even given the bylaws in this respect to the minutest details, for the reason that it gives utmost importance that matters of financial transactions should be clear and firm. We therefore consider it necessary to append below complete guidance given by Quran in this regard, as said in Ayah 2-282. O you who believe, when you borrow money for a fixed period, reduce the agreement to writing. Let a scribe write down this mutual transaction faithfully. Let the scribe not refuse to write, as Allah has given him the knowledge, but he should keep the divine law before him and not make any alterations in it. That is nothing more or nothing less. If the one who takes loan is mentally deficient or weak and is unable himself to dictate, let his guardian dictate faithfully, and take two witnesses out of your own men. And if there are not two men, then a man and two women, such as both parties agree to. The purpose behind taking two women in place of two men, so that if one of them errs or is confused, the other can remind her. The witnesses should not refuse when they are called on for evidence. Disdain not to reduce to writing your contract, whether it be small or big. It is closer to the demands of justice in the sight of divine laws. This is the best method to make the testimony firm and free of any doubts amongst yourselves. But if it be a transaction which you can carry out on the spot amongst yourself, which you do normally, there is no blame on you if you reduce it not to writing, but even then take witnesses whenever you make such a deal, and let neither scribe nor witness suffer them. If you do such harm, it would be tantamount to flouting the divine law. So guard Allah's law well, for it is He who makes these laws known to you, and Allah is well acquainted with all the things. And after this, it is said, as in Ayah 2-283, if you are on a journey and cannot find a scribe, a pledge with possession may swerve the purpose. And if one of you deposits a thing on trust with another, let the trustee faithfully discharge his trust and thus abide by the law of the one who is his sustainer. Conceal not evidence, for whosoever conceals it, his heart gets tainted with sin. Even if other people do not know of it, and he continues to be a reliable person amongst others, his self does get injury, and its nurturing forces do diminish and get weakened, because nothing can remain hidden from Allah's law of requital. As far as the question of two women in lieu of a man is concerned, the Quran itself has explained the reason. That is, if one woman forgets or is confused, the other shall remind her. This clarifies 2 points. One, firstly, that is that period the women were such due to illiteracy that they were not able to describe their own case properly, as said in Ayah 43-18, and that it was seldom that a chance arose for them to take part in the collective affairs. It was not unexpected of them to get confused before a court of law. Two, secondly, the need for a second woman arose only when the first one gets confused and forgot. If the first woman remained in forgetfulness, the second woman could neither interfere nor her testimony was needed. That this fully explains that. In fact, two women are not appearing as separate witnesses. One would suffice provided she does not suffer confusion in the court. It makes clear that women are not considered unreliable as against men on the basis of being women. It is only the special condition that are kept in view. When such conditions remain no more, the testimony of one man and one woman shall be considered equally trustworthy. 9. As explained in 7 above, para 7 above, at least two witnesses are required while making a will. Ayah 5-106. 10. For acts of immodesty leading towards adultery or fornication, at least four witnesses are required. As said in Ayah 4-15, remember, this testimony is for cases of general shameless acts leading towards adultery and not for adultery itself. Para 11. In cases of calumny against chaste women, at least four witnesses are required, as said in Ayah 24-4. And those who make an accusation against chaste women and provide not four witnesses to support their accusation, scourge them 80 times and reject their evidence even after, for such men are wicked transgressors. Also, deprive them of such privileges that are available to the citizens of an Islamic state, and if they still continue with their nefarious designs, inflict upon them a more grievous penalty. As said in Ayah 24-23, because these people go astray, leaving the right path. But if the charge of adultery is against one's own wife and other witnesses are not available, it is sufficient to take an oath. Thus, it is said in Ayah 24-6 to 9, and for those who raise a charge for adultery against their spouses and have in support no evidence but their own, the solitary evidence of the husband can be received if he bears witness four times with an oath by Allah that he is solemnly telling the truth. And the fifth oath shall be that he solemnly invokes the curse of Allah on himself if he tells a lie. But it would avert the punishment from the wife if she bears witness four times with an oath by Allah that her husband is telling a lie. Again, the fifth oath should be that she solemnly invokes the imprecation of Allah on herself if her accuser is telling the truth. With this, she shall be acquitted. 12. Two witnesses for the last stage of divorce, as said in Ayah 65-2, when they complete their iddat, the term of counting iddat shall be discussed in detail under injunction 12 of the family laws. In coming after this, either take them back on equitable terms or part from them on equitable terms, and take for witness two persons from among you endued with justice who stand as witness to this last stage of the divorce as duty towards Allah. The detailed injunctions about divorce shall be discussed later on. The issue described here is regarding evidence. 13. Circumstantial evidence. Testimony can be deduced from circumstantial evidence, like it was done in the accusation against Joseph. Here, the witness was not an eyewitness, but he argued, as said in Ayah 12-26 to 28, if it be that his shirt is rent from the front, then her tale is true, and he is a liar. But if it be that his shirt is torn from the back, then she is the liar, and he is telling the truth. So when he saw his shirt torn at the back, her husband said, behold, it is the guile of you women. How deep are your treacheries and how dangerous are your deceptions. It should be understood clearly that Quran has described it only as an incident. Ladies and gentlemen, today's session number 7 ends here. Let's pray from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us wisdom and courage to learn Quran, Islamic or Sharia law in its true essence, and give us that strength to apply it on ourselves, our near and dear's environment, in our countries and world as a whole. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be our best guide and protector, and He bestows upon us whatever is best suited for us. Ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves, your kith and kins, your close ones, your near and dears, and your environment as a whole. Till next session, Allah Hafiz.